In between them, we're going to add John Flanagan, who's with Ford Global. I apologize, that's John Hannigan. Sorry, John. Yeah. Okay, Rod, you can come off. Okay, John, you can come off. Now we'll just have the two head coaches. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reset the stage, and then we'll get started.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is John Hannigan. I'm the Global Aftermarket Director for Ford Motor Company. We're thrilled to welcome everyone here from the 1,000 Quick Lane Tire and Auto Care Centers globally to the Quick Lane Bowl for the 5th year in a row here in Detroit, Michigan. We're thrilled that Georgia Tech is here, as well as the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Georgia Tech is huge, we know, a very good team and such. Coach Johnson, this is his last year. They've been first or second in 7 of the last 11 seasons under Coach Johnson, which is thrilling. Done a fantastic job, and I think he's retiring as the 4th winningest coach in Georgia Tech history with 82 victories. Coach Fleck is bringing the Minnesota Golden Gophers here after a huge win with Wisconsin. And interesting fact with them, they have the 112 players, 58 of them are freshmen. He's got a very young team, 52% of them leads the nation. So we're had a huge future ahead of him. So with that, I'll turn it over to the coaches, Coach Johnson and Coach Fleck. Come on up.
Want us to start? Just go right ahead. Okay. All right. Guess I'll start. Just want to say thank you to the Quick Lane Bowl. I want to thank the Detroit Lions, the Ford family. Just thank you for selecting the Minnesota Golden Gophers, our state of Minnesota, our university, for allowing us to play in the bowl game. I want to congratulate Paul Johnson. You have 2 PJs up here. I don't think he goes by PJ, but you have 2 PJs up here. Then you throw John in here, and now there's a lot of Johns going on. So just want to thank and congratulate Paul Johnson on a tremendous season. Not only that, just a tremendous career. You know, you imagine how all things come together in your life. And my dad used to say, the Ramblin' Rep from Georgia Tech. That's all I used to say around the house. And we lived in Chicago. So I'm not necessarily sure why he always used to say that. But, you know, Coach Johnson has had a tremendous career. I still remember sitting and listening to Coach Johnson at the coaches convention. I think it was when you spoke, you were the keynote speaker. I was one of those young coaches in the audience taking down as many notes as I can. Not necessarily about the triple option, but more of just the way he did things and how he ran his program. So the deepest admiration from us to you, just to congratulate you on a tremendous career and congratulate you on being here. I just want to thank our president, Dr. Kaler, our athletic director, Mark Coyle, just with everything they do. I want to thank our fans. I want to thank the state of Minnesota, our university, for all that they do. We're excited to be here. We look forward to answering a lot of your questions. We do have the youngest team in America. It's been fun to follow this team and watch this team grow and develop. I think you'll see close to, 8 freshmen starting on offense, maybe as much as 5 or 6 on defense as we keep going forward. And, you know, but that's what we said at the beginning of the year, what would happen. It's been fun to watch this team mature, end the year winning 2 out of 3, one against Purdue, who had a tremendous season as well, and then losing against Northwestern, who was a Big Ten West champs in a close game. and then finishing up and winning at Camp Randall against Wisconsin, a really good Wisconsin team that was picked at the beginning of the year in the top 4, and one of the playoff teams was picked, and it was really good to be able to have that victory. We hadn't won in Camp Randall since 1994. I was 14 years old last time that happened, and to be able to have that victory and bring the Axe back to the state of Minnesota was really exciting for our fans and for our university, and I know our band and our team. So to be able to have that victory after 15 years of not winning that was a huge accomplishment for our players. So we're very honored to be here. We love recruiting the state of Michigan, love being in Detroit, and just want to thank everybody for having us. Truly appreciate it.
Okay. Well, good morning. Again, let me start by thanking the Quick Lane Bowl for inviting Georgia Tech, the people at Ford, the city of Detroit, our program, our administration, and our football team's excited to be coming here to play in the game. Georgia Tech has a rich tradition of bowl games. I think they're one of the few schools that has played in almost every bowl game in America, and this will be our first trip here, so this will be something new for our program, and it's one that our players and fans and everybody in Atlanta is looking forward to. Congratulations to PJ. They had a great finish to get bowl eligible and to be here. They've got a team that's fun to watch. I've started to break them down the last couple of days, and it ought to be a heck of a game. It's kind of a contrast to style, so it'll be interesting. But we know it'll be a huge challenge in front of us. So looking forward to being here and look forward to answering any questions that people might have.
Coach Johnson, question for you. This goes back a ways, but former Detroit Lions head coach Bobby Ross won the UPI National Championship, I think, in 1990. I wonder if you ever had any contact with him or.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bobby. When I was the head coach at the Naval Academy, Bobby was the head coach at West Point. So we played each other 3 or 4 times, and I've known Bobby through the years. And he gets back to Georgia Tech usually once a year, and then I think he still lives in Lexington, and whenever we play Virginia Tech, he's always at that game. When we play in Blacksburg, we played there this year. So I get to see him, not often as we'd like, but he does come back around.
PJ, you mentioned how young your football team is. This is a question for both coaches. Just how important is this extra 2 weeks of practice, an extra game, in the overall building of a program and the process throughout the year?
Well, for us, it's not going to be real important. They're going to have a new coach. Yeah. I've always kind of looked at bowl games as more of a reward than another spring practice. When we talk to our team about playing in a bowl game, certainly our number one goal is to try to win the game, but I also want our team to enjoy it and have some fun. So we try to find that happy balance, with preparation and practice and enjoying the trip and enjoying the bowl game. When I was a younger coach, I worked on staffs that not only the players, but as a coach, you dreaded it. I mean, it was like going back into two-a-days and keeping the young guys out after the other guys went in. And none of those kids want to do that. They want to come and play another team and have an experience and have fun. So, we'll get about 10 practices in, which is plenty. That won't be the issue. If we lose the game, it'll be because Minnesota was better than us and played better than us. So, but we'll also be able to have some fun, and hopefully our guys can enjoy it. And it's a reward for the seniors. So that's kind of the way we approach it.
Yeah, similar in terms of I think people earn bowl games, right? And it's a reward. We've started to practice. Playing Georgia Tech, especially on defense, is a major challenge. Not only just because of the players they have and the coaching they have, but the system and the style is different, and you change a little bit of your defensive system to be able to stop the triple option and to be able to stop that type of scheme. So for us, we needed to get started a little bit earlier defensively because we have so many young players that we wanted to get some of those spring practices going to get them better in our own system. So when we actually do start really kind of game planning and really zoning in on Georgia Tech, that the defense is going to change almost completely. which will help us a little bit, maybe a little bit, because they're different systems. But we play Georgia Southern next year, so it'll at least get our guys' minds thinking of option football somehow, some way. And two different type of styles now, but similar that they can start thinking. And but we need to get a lot of our young guys better. And our coaching staff celebrated when we found out we were going to be bowl eligible, because we knew how much work we have to do with our players. But again, our practices are very short, a lot shorter. I mean, our practices are basically an hour, maybe 55 minutes to an hour right now. I want them on the field, off the field. We'll probably practice anywhere between 12 and 13 times total, using that this week as really Minnesota versus Minnesota. Be able to get ourselves better, and then once we get into next week, we'll start to shift that focus a little bit more towards Georgia Tech. But very similar to Coach Johnson in terms of it's a reward. You know, they've earned it. They've earned the right to be in a bowl game, and they need to have fun, and they need to be able to enjoy it. The last thing you want to do is have your players dread going to a bowl game. And on the other hand, we've got to get better too. We just got to find that right balance to be able to do all of that and continue to get our work done.
Coach Johnson, you talked about having this be your last game. What emotions do you have?
You know, I don't know. I guess it'll hit you when you're out there. You don't really think about it. My big focus on this game is it's about the players. It's not about me. And everything I want to do about the players. They're the ones who got here. They're the ones who won 6 of the last 8 games. You know, it's. I'm sure that you'll think about it when it's over, or maybe towards the end, or whatever. But as I told somebody before, this is my 40th straight year of coaching without a break, and it's probably time for a break. That's kind of unheard of in this profession. Usually they take you out before then, or at least you have a break somewhere along the line. And so I'll take a break and reevaluate, and who knows? If it's the last game, it's the last game. If I decide I can't live without it, it may come back. It's like right now, I don't know. I know that I'm going to take a year off and evaluate where I am. So, you know, it's hard to tell you how you're going to react. I don't know.
Both coaches, Urban Meyer obviously decided to retire or stop coaching for now. Your thoughts on his decision?
Well, being in the same league as him, and he's a legendary coach. What he's done on the football field is second to none, really, when you look at his record and what he's been able to do and accomplish. I think as Coach Johnson said, you know, usually there's 2 types of coaches that have been fired and coaches that are going to be fired. And to be able to have somebody go out on their own terms, I think that's how all coaches, and Coach Johnson's very blessed to be able to do that. I think he'd be able to tell you that as a head coach, when you decide that maybe it's time to be able to spend more time with your family, or maybe stop, but to continue to keep that option open down the road. As Coach Johnson said, there's no breaks in this profession. And I think that's what's difficult for a lot of our families and maybe people who are around us that don't necessarily understand that. I still have family members that ask me, so when you're not playing games, like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, why aren't you here? The season's over. And they don't understand the time commitment that we have and the time we spend away from our families. And it's what we choose. We love to be able to be a part of education and teaching young people, not just the game of football, but now this is our game is turning into life coaches as well, because of the way our society's changing too, and the issues and the problems and the challenges and the opportunities these young people are facing in front of them every single day. So it is a 24-hour job, 365 days a week. There is no break, as Coach Johnson already said. And I'm sure when, you know, if he compared 40 years ago when he started to where he is now, the type of break that's possibly needed is drastic. And, you know, so just want to congratulate him on a tremendous career, being in the same conference as him. I've had time to spend around him over the years, and, you know, hats off to his career.
Coach Johnson, I got a question. Just over the years, if you've seen the way different regions play football, if that's changed, you know, the Big Ten used to be run only and all of that. I wonder if you've seen that change from, it's now such a regional way of playing.
Yeah, let me answer that in just 1 second. I wanted to add on to what he said is, Susan and I have known Urban and Shelley for, gosh, a long time. One of my players is married to Urban's daughter, one of my former players, Corey Dennis. His daughter went to school at Georgia Tech. And what he's accomplished you know, as PJ said, is really amazing. And this is his second time stepping away. Hopefully that he can work through some of the issues he's having medically. And who knows? He's still relatively young. If he can work through it, we might see him coaching again. I think that, but he, you know, he's not only done it at Ohio State. He did it at Florida. He did it at Utah. He's done it at several schools. So have the utmost respect for him as a coach, and we certainly you know, consider it a pleasure to have spent time with he and Shelley. So I just wish him nothing but the best. The different regions with different styles, I'm probably a little bit different than most coaches. I don't know how many different styles there are. You know, people categorize what we do as different. That's okay. We're not much different than zone read teams. There's hardly a team in college football now that doesn't run some kind of an option at some point. Now, they don't run it like we do. It's different. Just like there are a lot of teams that are inside zone teams or outside zone teams. I think that sometimes the weather can dictate a little bit how you play and that kind of thing. But all in all, in my 40 years of coaching, it comes down to blocking and tackling and doing the basics. You're not going to trick many people. You know, good players will beat good plays. It's just kind of the way it is. And I think that if you're fundamentally sound and you can block and you can tackle and you can do those things, it's a lot of different ways to be successful with scheme. I mean, you see teams that are successful that throw the ball. You see a lot of teams that are successful that don't throw the ball. I think it's just kind of whatever system you have and what system that you can develop that fits your personnel. And, you know, there might be some speed differences by different regions, size differences. Those things I think are more prevalent than maybe the style and the schemes. It's just my 2 cents.
PJ, you're obviously in a different spot than Paul in your career. You're building a program. Just how important is this as a next step? Didn't get to a bowl the first season, getting to a bowl, then obviously building on that moving forward.
And we talk to our kids all the time about, you know, the next right step, you know, whether that's a workout, whether that's a week objective, or whether that's a season objective. And from where we were at the beginning of the year to where we are now, you know, we started the year, we lost 6 best players, and we knew going into the year that we couldn't lose anybody. We said, all right, if this team looks this way, I think we got a shot to be pretty good. On paper, you sat there and go, wow, we're young, but if these guys can stay healthy, we can still be somewhat experienced. Those 6 guys got hurt, and we lost them. And now we got so much younger so fast. So what we did, we just took one day at a time like we always do in our program. We call it row the boat, just keep your oar in the water, just continue to go, continue to grow academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. And our guys have continued to do that. And it's been fun to watch their growth, physically, mentally, emotionally. You know, when you're dealing with some freshmen, that's one thing. When you're dealing with the majority, almost all on offense, that all are freshmen, especially the trigger guy, right? And the running backs and the O-linemen and the wideouts and the tight ends. And you're not only dealing with just the physical part, you're dealing with the mental and emotional part of young people coming and adapting to college. Usually they have a few years before they have that pressure and that expectation of you've got to perform at a high level. But we recruited a lot of this class to be able to do that. And that was why a lot of them turned down other opportunities to come down to the University of Minnesota and play for us. So I've just seen steady growth every single day, and it hasn't always been success. The growth, we define failing as growth. Failure is quit. They've just continued to fail enough to be successful at the end of the year to earn a bowl game. And if I would have told you all the things that they failed at, it's just amazing. But, you know, we have the highest GPA in the history of the program, and they just continue to find ways to be able to get better. And I think this team really enjoys being around one another. And I think that was one of the objectives we had when we first got here with what was going on. We had to be able to connect this team, not divide this team. And that was the challenge over the last 2 years. So we're exactly where we should be. People always say, are you ahead of schedule? Are you behind schedule? We're exactly where we should be, and we're exactly what we've earned. And so we'll talk about next year when we get to next year.
Coach John,
you've got a secret weapon on campus, the varsity. Would you explain that, and would you, do you take recruits there, or?
Yeah, the varsity is kind of a drive-in. It's been a staple in Georgia and Atlanta. It's kind of famous for the hot dogs and the onion rings and the frosted oranges. And, you know, you can't come to Atlanta without stopping in the varsity. But if you eat there more than once a month, you're probably not going to survive. But you'll be greased out. No, we don't take recruits, but it is right up from our office. It's about a block, and during the season, myself and a couple of the other coaches, we've gotten too old and feeble to run every day, so we'll go walk, and we make sure that once every 3 or 4 weeks we end up walking to the varsity and kind of killing while we're walking. But it's a neat place, and if you come to Atlanta, everybody probably ought to check it out.
BJ, you mentioned Georgia Southern on the schedule next year. I think you had a game with them at Western and played the Air Force when you were there in the bowl game. Like, just how challenging is that offense, not only to prepare for, but to just sort of mentally have your guys be able to drill it every day?
Well, as Coach Johnson said, you know, they're similar, but they're very different at the same time. And as he said, a lot of people have some type of option or some type of zone read. It's very similar. Now, the style he runs, Coach Johnson, is there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of moving parts. You almost have to, like I said, change your defensive scheme. Sometimes with some others that dabble in it, you don't have to change your scheme as much. You just have to be ready for it. But, yeah, we do play Georgia Southern, and, you know, I forgot who was talking to me, one of my head coaches in the past, and they said, listen, I got great advice for you. He said, do never, ever schedule Georgia Southern or that Paul Johnson guy. And here I am. Georgia Southern twice I've played as a head football coach at Western Michigan. One time we went to Statesboro. I don't even know how I got out of Statesboro. It is one of the most difficult places to play I've ever seen. And then they came to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we lost in Statesboro. We won in Kalamazoo. And so now we play them again next year, so in TCF Bank Stadium in Minnesota. So again, just we're going to have a lot of practice at it. And then when we played Air Force in the Idaho, our famous Idaho Potato Bowl, again, we dealt with that as well. So we have some experience. That's what I'll say. We have some experience in being able to go back to our past of what we've been able to do, what was successful, what wasn't. So you do have 4 or 5 games to be able to draw from. So that is good.
Coach Fleck, this is a return to Michigan for you. I mean, you spent a good amount of time here. You played at Ford Field with Western Michigan. Just on a personal level, getting picked to come to this bowl game, what does it mean to kind of make this little return back?
This is really important. This is really important for our university. It's really important for our state. Just being in a bowl game, period. But to be able to do it in a place you recruit, a place where you lived, a place where your wife is from. My wife, Heather, is from Michigan. And it's a very special place. The high school football here is absolutely tremendous. I love recruiting the area. We had a few home visits last night, which was really nice to be able to tie that into even the event. But it's a very special place to me. It always will be. Kathy Beauregard at Western Michigan, you know, you always have to have somebody take a shot on you. We're all up here because somebody believed in us somehow, some way. We're all where we are based on somebody else. It's not because of just us. And Kathy Beauregard at Western Michigan University, you know, changed my life forever. She took an opportunity on a young 31, 32-year-old NFL wide receiver coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that she thought could really do something special with her program. And going back and looking at those opportunities we had at Western Michigan, taking that team from 1-11 to 13-1, and going to the Cotton Bowl and having those experiences with not only the players there but the town, you know, and you remember all those things. You know, we were up here talking about Urban Meyer earlier. He was at Bowling Green, then Utah, then Florida, and then Ohio State. It's those places. It's the players, but it's those towns too, and you have those connections not only with that town and that city forever for the rest of your life, but as well as the entire state. So it was really good to get back into Michigan yesterday recruiting, plus being at the bowl game here because everybody was talking about it, which was really nice.
Coach Fleck, take a moment to reflect on President Bush passing, because he always talked about Heim Stadium in Kalamazoo as being important to him.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I didn't know President Bush at all, but I will say, you know, I mean, we talk to our players all the time about people, right? Our country is about people, and you know, however people feel about their different views on our country. We're talking about people, right? We're talking about the leader of our country and person that sacrificed a lot for all of us to be able to be here, as well as our servicemen and women on a daily basis of what they do. So, you know, it's a national day of sorrow and of mourning anytime you lose a president. So, you know, we're just, you know, all of our thoughts and prayers are with not only our nation, but with the Bush family as well.
PJ, what makes Tyler Johnson so good?
Tyler Johnson, you know, our wide receiver, number 6, you know, he's gotten so much better. I think he's become such a better route runner. You know, when we first got here, we knew he was going to be a good player, but he needed to do a lot of things. He needed to be able to sharpen his game, and that's what I think Matt Simon, our wide receiver coach, has done a tremendous job of doing. I think Tyler's way more dedicated. He's a tremendous student of the game. His route running, his core strength, understanding leverage, understanding center of gravity, understanding how to become an elite route runner, how to be able to create the separation, create the space. It's not just catching the football. It's about being in a position where you can do that and give yourself the best chance to do that. So I think that's where he's grown the most. I think his leadership is getting better, and it's at a point where, you know, you want to see him completely take over the football team as he continues to grow and becomes more comfortable with that role. We don't have many seniors on our football team. I think maybe you'll see maybe 4 of them play or be in the 2 deep with our seniors. And so we rely on a lot of our young guys leading. And we always have game day captains, and I can't tell you how many days, whether it was a junior, sophomore, freshman, were our game day captains. So Tyler's really grown up, and you know, we expect really big things from him as he continues to go on a daily basis. But tremendous individual, wonderful young man.
Okay, everybody, thanks for coming. We're going to have both Coach Johnson and Coach Fleck over here to the side very briefly for any one-on-ones if you have any follow-ups. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep.